A man is telling his students that classes are over and he is wishing them a good weekend. The children then celebrate, and at that moment, a nun appears asking to talk a little with the children. One of the children then tells another that the two of them would look good together. The nun then tells the children that next week there would be a trip to the planetarium and that anyone who doesn't bring permissions signed by their parents will not be able to go on the trip. The children then celebrate. The nun thanks the man and says that she hoped he would also go on the trip with them. The teacher then says that classes are over and they can leave. The girl then tells her friend that they would put the plan into practice. She tells her friend to go talk to the teacher that she was going to talk to the nun. They then go to them if they put glue on their clothes. The girl then goes to the nun and she then asks if the girl was okay. The girl says yes and that she missed the nun. She hugs the nun and then starts pushing her. The nun around tells her not to do that as they could fall. The other girl then goes to the teacher. He asks if everything was alright with her. She says yes, but that she would really miss the teacher over the weekend. She then hugs the professor and then starts pushing him. The children manage to push the two until they stick to their clothes. The man then tells the nun that he would try to get out of there and that she was not supposed to move. He then manages to disengage himself from the nun, but soon he realizes that her clothes had not been torn. The man then warns the nun that her clothes had torn. She gets very worried about it and tries to hide it. The man then tells her to stay calm as he had a plan. He said that everything would be fine, but at that moment, another woman arrives and asks what they were doing there. She then asks if the nun wasn't ashamed of doing that inside the school. The nun then gets embarrassed about it, and then the woman says that she would film it and show it to the director. She asks the woman not to do that, but the woman says that they weren't ashamed of doing that and that she would show it to the director. At this time, Fair realizes that the school principal was coming and she then asks what they were going to do. The man tells her to try to hide it by putting a backpack on her back. He then helps the nun put the backpack on her back, and at that moment, the priest arrives. The priest then asks the teacher why he is hugging the nun. He said that the nun had just arrived on the journey and that he missed her a lot, as they were childhood friends. The priest then says that the woman was studying to become a nun and that she could not be seen cuddling up to a man. The man then apologizes to the priest, says that would never happen again. He says that he had just done that, because he missed the nun a lot. The priest then says that he hoped this would never happen again and says that he has been keeping an eye on them. Later, the priest goes to his car and then the woman goes to him. She says that she needed to talk to him urgently, but he said he didn't have time for that right now, as he was late for an appointment. The woman said she needed to talk to the priest urgently, but he said he had an important meeting and he couldn't stay there and talk to her. He then tells her to look for him the other day. Meanwhile, the man was telling the nun that he had a good plan for them. I told myself they could take the cloth he had and then glue it to the back of the woman's dress. She then says that they should do it quickly, because the priest would be back soon. The man then says that he already got a stapler, and then he tells the woman to let him mend the dress for her. She then says that she couldn't do that, as he would end up seeing her body. He said he couldn't resolve the situation if she didn't show him the back of her dress. She said she would show, but he couldn't look at her. The man then said that if he didn't look, he would end up hurting the nun. He then proceeds to staple the cloth he had found in the nun's clothes. At that moment, the little girls go up to the two and say that they needed to tell them something. The man then asks what had happened and they say that they were the ones who glued the two together. This leaves many surprises. The girl then says that they had found a picture of the two of them back when they were dating. The nun then says that that was a long time ago and that they were teenagers at the time. The girl then says that they wanted them to date again, as they made a nice couple. The man then said that the girls couldn't do that, as the woman was studying to be a nun, so she couldn't have a boyfriend. A girl then asks why she can't have a boyfriend, and the nun says that they couldn't be committed to anyone but God. The girls then say they understood. The nun then says that they had created a very big problem for her, because a woman had seen her that way and so she took a picture to show the priest. The man then says that the priest could punish the woman, but the girl says that she had a plan to help them. The nun says she couldn't depend on the children to get out of the situation, but they say the plan would work. The man then says that they could see what their plan was since they had nothing to lose. She then runs down the street as they ask them to follow. The woman then asks what the kids were thinking of doing and the man says he doesn't know. The girl then says that now is the time for her to put her plan into action and then goes to the doorbell of a house. At that moment, the woman answers the door and asks what the girl wanted. She said that she had dropped her ball inside the woman's house and asks if she could come in to get it. She says she didn't have any ball in her field and that if she had, she wouldn't deliver, and then she closes the gate of her house. The girl then says that her plan didn't work, but the other girl tells her to take it easy, because she had another plan. She then goes to the woman's house and rings the doorbell. The woman soon answers the door, asking what she wanted. The girl then says that she was there to collect some coats to distribute to the poor and asks if she could contribute. The woman said she didn't have anything to donate, but the girl says the coats would go to really poor people. The woman then said she would look for a coat and asks the girl to wait there. She then enters the house and the girl calls the rest of the group to enter the house with her. Their group then manages to sneak inside the woman's house. The girl then spots the woman's cell phone and then the man said he would look for the photo on it. The nun asks if he could do that, but he says he wouldn't know if it would work or not. At that moment, the woman goes down the stairs of her house and then the girls hide. She sees that they were there and asks what they were doing inside her house. The nun says they needed to talk to the woman, but she said she had nothing to talk about with indecent people like them. The man then said that they were there to collect coats for needy people. The woman said she already knew about that, but she says she doesn't know why they were inside her house. The man said that they eventually saw that her gate was open. He said he had called for her, but she didn't answer, and so they decided to go inside. The woman then says that she had already warned them that the video she recorded of them doing indecent things inside the school, she would show it to the priest so that they would suffer the consequences. The nun says it was an accident, but the woman says she doesn't care and asks them to leave her house. They then apologize to the woman and leave. They manage to get out of the woman's house and then they celebrate by saying that the woman almost managed to figure out what they were doing. The nun then asks the man if he had managed to delete the video from the woman's cell phone. He then says that he had managed to delete the video and then the woman gives him a hug. The man says he needed to confess something. He said that everything that had happened that day only reminded him of how much he was in love with the nun. She then said that he knew she couldn't do that, because soon she was going to become a nun, so she couldn't have those kind of impure thoughts. The man then says that he wouldn't bother her with that kind of thing anymore. He said he was leaving, but she asks him to wait and then kisses him. Sometime later, they go together to the priest. The priest is confused by that and asks why they are there, hugging, and why she is without the veil. She then says that she needed to talk about it with the priest, but at that moment, the woman arrives and says that she needs to talk to the priest. The priest then says that she was already disturbing him since the day before and asks, what is she so urgent about? She said she had something to show the priest about the two of them doing something indecent. He then asks the woman to show him what she was talking about. The priest searches, but finds nothing and says that there were only pictures of her. The woman said that something had happened, because the video was there. The priest said he didn't have time to talk to her and asked her to leave. The nun then said that she needed to talk to the priest as she would no longer become a nun. She said she wanted to marry the man. The priest then tells her that she was just short of becoming a nun and that she was doing so well on the course. The man then says that they had already talked about it and that they really wanted to get married. He said that they had known each other for a long time and that he was in love with her. The priest then says that since that was their wish, he couldn't do anything, but asks them to let him celebrate their wedding. They then say that it would be an honor if the priest celebrated their marriage.